Hello and welcome to Wingin It. So it feels like it's been a while, but I'm glad to say that I'm back with some more gameplay here today, and this is coming from our most recent tournament, which is the Blue Tit Bash. So this is our second tournament that we have on the tournament server, which features the European expansion. So I'm very excited for this. This is my first tournament that I've organised, so definitely some excitement there, but also just generally all these new European expansion birds. I'm definitely interested to see how how they feature in the competitive scene, how players get used to them and adjust to using them. So this is my first group game from the tournament, and we've got the starting hand, so let's get stuck right in. And I think it's not a terrible start. I think the snow bunting, it had a lot of issues when the game first came out, but I think most players agree that it's a pretty good bird. We already know from the base game that tucking features a lot in kind of most strategies in the game. And then obviously in the expansion itself, there's a lot of other new tucking powers that are introduced. So the snow bunting letting you get a tuck card every time your opponent takes a tuck card. It's just such a flexible and really strong power as well. So my kind of plan at least is to go with that and the nightingale, try and get those in the wetlands and then really start digging. Certainly from my experience playing the European expansion since it's come out, it's so important to get good card draw, because there's a lot of new cards, 81 new cards on top of the existing 180. There's a lot of cards in the deck, so you need to really be able to consistently draw a lot of cards and be able to find those cards that you're looking for in the deck. So that's just really, really important. And I kept the nightingale as well. You'll see that's a good food source, I think. Basically works like the hummingbirds from the base game, except you get to choose exactly what food you want rather than be restricted to picking from the bird feeder. And then obviously everyone is going to get that kind of food. So I think you do have to be a bit cautious. Certainly I always feel a bit nervous early in the game if I'm sort of spamming one of these powers and giving away a lot of free resources to my opponent, because early in the game food is really difficult to get hold of, and so if you're giving too much of it to your opponent, then that's going to save them turns, maybe not having to go to the bird feeder, and they can really sort of save a bit of tempo in terms of being able to play more birds or maybe gain more cards or lay more eggs. That's really what you've got to watch out for. So my opponent has the indigo bunting and it goes in the forest. So if you know me, you'll know my feelings about that. I always feel like it's better in the grasslands. And with this bird feeder setup as well, seeing the 3 worms, you can grab those pretty easily. Obviously, I don't know what else they've got in their hand. Maybe they've got some other nice forest birds to kind of add to that, or maybe nothing else for the grasslands. But yeah, certainly I think this kind of start was tailor-made for a grassland bunting, and I think especially once they see this nightingale go down as well, they know they'll get a bit of extra free food from that. With a grassland bunting, you could probably ignore the forest for this whole game and just try and focus on laying eggs and getting food and scoring points that way. But that's their decision. Sometimes people like the forest bunting, but it's not for me. So kind of going back to just what I'm doing here. Like I said, going for cards, get a bit of food from this nightingale. Picked up the cowbird because it works pretty well here with the nightingale. I think works with the bonus card. Plenty of bowl nest spaces on that nightingale, so that's really going to come in handy. Unfortunately, it reveals that yellow-headed blackbird, which I really would have liked to grab. So I'm kind of praying and hoping that my opponent leaves it, and they do indeed leave it for me. So kind of no real thinking there, just grab it straight away. Unfortunately, again, it then reveals the killdeer. So I kind of know straight away my opponent's going to be grabbing that. And it's kind of good and it's bad. So you'll see me, I'm looking at that cowbird. Obviously with the killdeer, I know I'm going to be getting lots of eggs from that. But I'm going to feel even more nervous about giving away free food, because if my opponent can get really lots of eggs and cards through that killdeer, the one thing they're missing is food. And so if I'm going to be giving them loads of free food and sort of saving them from having to spend too many turns in the forest, that's quite dangerous for me. But yeah, see the barn swallow comes up again, so lots of tucking birds coming up. Certainly the barn swallow, it's good for me, I think, in this situation, but it's even better for my opponent. So yeah, kind of made sense, I think, for me to grab that and look to get this down. So obviously with the house rules, my opponent can't play the killdeer until we get into round 2. So that saves me a little bit in terms of just slowing down how quickly they can play it. But actually, I don't think it really mattered too much for them in this situation, because they had pretty decent forest. They could spend a couple of turns grabbing food and then wait and then get that killdeer down in the second round. But yeah, I think for me, it's looking like a wetland engine. So that wasn't necessarily the plan. Like I said, I think the start really, Bunting and Nightingale, was more just to allow me to get some card draw and not necessarily go for the wetland engine, but just enable me to get some cards, get a bit of food along the way. So yeah, you'll see this turn go for cards, works out pretty nicely. I kind of had to go for the cards anyway to get the eggs on the blackbird to be able to play potentially the barn swallow or I needed the food if I wanted to play the cowbird. So yeah, going for cards was always kind of the plan, but also it helps the end of round. So this first end of round, one of these new European expansion end of round goals, cards in hand, just by having that extra turn, drawing cards at the end, I was able to get one ahead in that, and that's so important. Being able to win that first end of round gets you a nice early lead. So yeah, here we go into round 2, and it's another very nice tray. So again, kind of like the barn swallow, I think that grackle is so good for both players. So absolute no-brainer for me to grab that. I've already got the food, fortunately, but yeah, can grab a little bit more with this Nightingale as well. So I think grackle here is kind of better than that barn swallow for me. If I play the grackle, obviously I will be tucking away 2 cards every turn, but I'm drawing 3, so that's not going to be a problem for me. I'm still generating enough cards to be left with some to play. So yeah, it's not a big deal for me. Now my opponent, they played the common swift here, which I found quite interesting. That definitely made me worry a bit more, even more so than I already was, about spamming too much on the food, because there's a few birds like this that at the end of each round you can discard food from your supply. In the common swift case, it's worms, and you turn them into tuck cards. So you're basically turning any spare food into points. And I think without these powers, certainly in the base game, you could get away with these co-op food powers a little bit more, sort of spam them and really overload your opponent with so much food that they didn't know what to do with it. But with these powers, I think it certainly weakens that sort of co-op food spam strategy a little bit, because every single one of those foods can potentially get turned into points. But obviously in the Swift's case, it is just worms, so I can maybe try and think a little bit carefully about what food I'm going to give away. But here we go, bush tit, blind draw straight away. That was a nice pickup. So yeah, this kind of, like I said, wasn't planned on being a sort of wetland full tuck, but when life gives you lemons, you go full tuck. So again, the barn swallow was probably what my next play would have been, either that or the cowbird, but certainly now I've got this bush tit. I kind of have to get that down. Just all the tuck cards, all the egg space as well. It's going to help with that third and a round goal. At the moment, I don't have that right nest type, so yeah, pretty much a no-brainer for me. And it just makes me put off this cowbird 1 extra turn or 2 more extra turns, and I feel like that always seems to happen to me whenever I have this kind of wetland engine going on, is that I'll find a cowbird or something that's going to get me 3 eggs, and every time I'm ready to play it, I draw something else that I want to play instead. So not necessarily a bad thing. Obviously with these pink powers, you want to get them down as soon as possible, because the earlier you get them down, the more benefit you get from them. But you know, when when you get all these tucking powers, you kind of want to play them first because, you know I'm going to be drawing lots of cards, so to be able to turn those into tuck cards and eggs as well, it's kind of really, really important. So yeah, you know, at this point my engine's pretty much complete. Already managed to get the lower bound on the bonus card as well, which is nice. You know, the bonus card I had at the start, not great. Generally one of the weaker ones, but actually I'm feeling pretty good about being able to max out even. You know, I know that cowbird's going to go down, and then at that point I just need maybe, I think, 2 or 3 more cards that are going to meet that, and I've got the rest of the game to do that, so don't have to worry too much about it. But yeah, this is kind of the first turn I get to really max out the tucking in the wetlands, and you know, really I'm just kind of thinking and planning ahead a little bit in terms of where I'm going to go with this, because I am going to need to play some birds. You know, the egg space on these tucking powers is limited, and if I'm getting 3 eggs a turn, you know, maybe I'm going to be discarding 1 to get some extra cards, but I am still going to fill up quite quickly. So particularly as well, if I get the cowbird down, that might contribute a bit to filling up egg space. You know, the nightingale has got 4 spaces, but yeah, kind of managing egg space is always the trickiest part, I think, of running this kind of wet-led engine. But yeah, you know, for now at least, I think it's pretty straightforward for me. Just kind of keep digging through the deck. I've got these extra cards to be getting rid of, and really I'm just looking for cards like this warbler. So, you know, again, it's going to help the bonus card. It's another bowl nest, so potentially if I can finally get this cowbird down, it's just going to help for that a little bit as well. But yeah, any kind of big point bird or bonus card giving bird, that's what I'm looking for. So and the cheaper the better, because again, I'm only getting 1 food a turn at the moment with this nightingale, and my forest is non-existent. So obviously I have got a couple of forest birds in my hand. I've got one of the new nuthatches, I think, from the expansion that you know, was potentially looking at playing if I kind of was desperate for a bit more food. But yeah, certainly to get that cowbird down now, that was kind of important for me. Feeling pretty good. I know, you know, look at my opponent's setup, it's pretty straightforward for them. They're just going to be laying eggs a lot, trying to dig through the deck with this killdeer, and then ultimately either use all that free food they'd be getting off me, or even visit their forest, which is a pretty nice forest at the moment. So yeah, I think for me it's just about maxing out on these tucks, but then being careful about the egg space. You can see, you know, that blackbird, that grackle, they're already close to filling up. They've only got 1 space left on each, so yeah, you know, that first bird you play in each habitat doesn't clear out the egg spaces, so you do need to start finding birds that can go in that same habitat. You know, maybe I start filling up the grasslands already, or the forest as well, and that's where kind of double birds and things like that come in handy. So yeah, I've got to just find these birds and then make sure I'm also getting enough food quickly enough to be able to play them. But yeah, here we go into to round 3, and my opponent's going first, so unsurprisingly I think that whooping crane was always going to go straight away. But the busted is one I have kind of got my eye on a little bit. You know, again, it's another one for the bonus card, and it's going to give me a bonus card as well. And yeah, you know, might help with the end of round if I need to lay an egg somewhere. So always a good option to have. Now, here is where the Goldcrest comes in. And I kind of wasn't even thinking about this as an option before it came up. You know, so I think sometimes when you are running an engine like this, you're kind of thinking in your head, okay, what kind of birds am I looking for? So, you know, in my head, I was looking for lots of double birds. I was looking for birds like the warbler that I've already got to kind of try and get down, get some more points and bonus cards and all of that. But actually, I think the Goldcrest here is really timely. You know, I could grab the worm pretty easily with the nightingale, but I'm always going to have some extra cards. Now, the kind of engine that I'm running, like I said, if I'm discarding the extra egg, I'm getting 4 cards and then tucking 3. So I'm not generating loads of spare cards, but yeah, with this Goldcrest, if I can get that down, the bird power, very interesting one, letting you discard cards and then play extra birds in the forest when you do take that game food action. So there is another similar power. Can't remember the name of the bird, but it lets you discard eggs instead of cards to play extra birds. So I think that one probably probably would have been better in this situation, because I think I'm going to have more spare eggs just from all these tucking powers than spare cards. But you know, I still think the Goldcrest here is really strong, and you know, if I can pick up some more good forest birds, I've already got the Warbler. If I can pick up some nice other, you know, bonus card giving birds or big point birds, then yeah, if I can play those while gaining food and just clear out some of this egg space at the same time, then that's going to really come in handy. So yeah, at this point it's really just about prioritizing and kind of thinking, you know, which of these birds realistically am I going to play? Some of them are going to get tucked on this turn, but you'll see as the egg spaces are filling up, I know that I'm going to need to, you know, try and get the Goldcrest down and think a little bit about, yeah, which of these birds I'm going to play, you know, which of them are going to help the bonus card, try and get me some more points. That's kind of what's going through my head. So, yeah, I think this next turn is going to be the one where the Goldcrest goes down, and then, like I said, it's just about planning and thinking. And you know, that first turn you only get one food, which is not great. But obviously, the more you kind of use this Goldcrest and fill up that forest, the more you're able to get extra food, and yeah, just accelerate how quickly you're able to get these birds down. So yeah, I mean, the kind of the end of round was a little bit on my mind here. So we are currently tied with one bird each, but I know my opponent's been digging through the deck quite a lot with that killdeer, so I wouldn't be too surprised if they have found something. So yeah, I'm kind of looking at the buzzard, I'm looking at the vireo and thinking, you know, particularly with the vireo, if I can get that down, the cowbird is going to be able to lay eggs on that. So I think, yeah, I don't really want to be taking the lay eggs action here. It's probably the weakest of all of the actions I could be doing in this game in terms of point scoring. So yeah, there we go, the Goldcrest goes down, and then, like I said, for me it's just about kind of thinking and, you know, which of these birds do I want to play. Obviously with the bonus card I only need 2 more, so I think the Warbler is pretty straightforward. That's going to go down, and then it's just about, you know, is it going to be the Bustard, is it going to be the Nuthatch? I think even that Nutcracker is kind of playing on my mind a little bit. You know, it's 5 points for 1 food, works with the bonus card, and if it helps clear out some eggs, all the better. And you know, when you have such limited access to food as I do in this case, then I think being able to get these kind of really point efficient birds, you know, 5 points is not a lot, but 5 points for 1 food is definitely a lot. So certainly, yeah, like I say, one that I am considering. But priorities here: first one, obviously get that Warbler down. I had the food, and yeah, not a great pull on the bonus card. I'm kind of thinking backyard birder. I'm only 1 bird away. I was already thinking about playing the vireo, obviously for this end of round. So yeah, I think that kind of made sense for me. Just I know I'm going to be playing that for the end of round here, and if it gets me extra points on the bonus card, all the better. So yeah, this is kind of the turn where I just wait and see what my opponent's doing, and I think really I'm going to play that vireo anyway, because whether it helps me tie instead of losing the end of round, or if it helps me win it instead of tying, that works out the same for me. It's still 3 points better off than where I would have been. So yeah, you see the seed is already in the tray, so that will get me the seed I need for the Nutcracker, and then it's just about the reroll. So I'm kind of gambling and yeah, hoping that I can get either a worm or a cherry. But yeah, we know from other videos I've done that that's pretty likely to happen. So yeah, luckily the extra cards as well, I can probably chuck the buzzard here. Can't really see myself playing that. You know, ordinarily I think that goes really well with the Goldcrest, but if it stops me meeting backyard birder, I don't think it's going to be worth doing. But yeah, I think in the end that is the one I get rid of. And you'll see, here we go, on the reroll we do fortunately get the food for the vireo, and so I can get that down with the Nutcracker. And I think this is just a case of, you know, paying attention to your opponent, because I know from their board they did manage to get down that extra platform nest in the Osprey, but they haven't got any eggs on it, so they have to lay eggs this turn, and if they do, that'll get me a free one from this cowbird, which can go straight on the vireo. So yeah, I kind of can tie an egg-laying end of round goal without laying eggs, so that's always a nice feeling. And yeah, cleared out the space in the wetlands, so I got that egg space. I can afford to go for some extra cards, and I think that's really just all I have to do. Just go through the deck, obviously score points through the tucking powers, but really just try and find some nice birds. And if I find a big point forest bird, I can easily get that down. But equally, something like this Benelli's eagle, when you're running a wetland engine, that's the absolute dream, I think. Maybe in this case, not going to work quite as well as it ordinarily would. Again, just comes down to the card draw that I'm getting, only actually gaining one every turn. So I think if normally when you run this kind of engine, you have so many extra cards left over, and using the Benelli's eagle, obviously you can choose to tuck cards instead of paying those rodents, so that's just so powerful. But I'm kind of just thinking, and am I going to be able to do this double play with the bluebird and the eagle? This is where a lot of calculating comes in, because you're thinking, how many turns can I run through this wetlands before I fill up on eggs? Am I going to have to skip some tucks to be able to use the eagle? Obviously a lot is going to depend on the round 4 tray, because again, I'm kind of looking for those big point forest birds that I can easily grab the food and then play in the same turn using the Goldcrest. That's kind of the ideal situation. Clear out some egg space as well. But there we go. You see, did tie the end around in the end, which is very nice. And kind of nothing in the tray catches my eye. Obviously the raven always catches your eye, but probably not the time and place for it right now. So as usual, kind of get rid of the egg and start digging from the deck. So not great pulls on those first 3. Not the kind of birds you'd be looking to play, I think, late in the game. I was kind of looking at the raven and just thinking, could I play it just for the points? See, the rodent is in the tray, works with the end of round, but I think in the end I do just go off the top of the deck, and I think that crossbow works pretty well. 6 points. It would help the bonus card if I hadn't already maxed it out. But I can easily grab the food for that, and like I said, it's just all about clearing out some of this egg space. That's kind of the priority. I can score points while also saving that egg space. That's so key. So I do skip the nightingale there. Now I think that might have been a bit of a mistake. I think if I'd committed, I could have known that I'm going to play that crossbow, so got the extra seed. I think I was just a little bit nervous about potentially giving away a bit too much free food to my opponent. Like I said, kind of with that swift, I think the more food I give to them, the more food they can turn into points. So I think I probably should have taken the seed there, because now with my opponent having gone for food, I'm kind of gambling and really seeing if I am able to get the food I need on that reroll, because you see with the situation in the wetlands right now, I am just full up on eggs on 2 of those birds. So I'd either have to skip tucks or maybe miss out on the eggs, which is never really ideal. But with 4 turns left here, I am just kind of thinking, right, how many turns playing birds versus going for that wetlands, and how many cards do I need to get this eagle down? Am I going to have to skip some of the tucks and get some rodents? This is kind of always such a critical time of the game, when you've got 4 or 5 turns left, just planning and knowing what you're going to do, because often there's sort of 4 or 5 different channels you could go down and options for you to explore. But I think really, like I said, just being able to get this crossbow down and score points was so nice. And I think not taking that seed with the nightingale, it did come back to bite me on that reroll, so I did have to overpay a little bit. Not the end of the world, but I think it was a little bit frustrating here. And I've now got this Benelli's eagle, but no cards to play with it. So again, with these 3 turns left, I'm kind of thinking, right, I can probably have 1 turn going for cards, and then 1 turn playing the eagle, and then another turn going for cards. That's kind of probably the best case scenario to minimize wastage in terms of eggs. But but I am going to need to, yeah, think carefully about how many rodents I want to pay, how many tucks I want to use, how many eggs I'm going to discard here for trying to get extra cards. So, yeah, you know, the cards I picked up probably wasn't too important. The Snowy Owl did make me think a little bit about, you know, can I maybe play that instead of the Eagle? But it was always going to be a bit of a gamble on the bonus card. So I think in the end, you know, I do keep it on this turn. But yeah, for me, you know, this is kind of the point where if I'm going to play the Snowy Owl, then I don't need to discard the extra egg here. I can obviously just play the Owl with the rodent I've got, and then a second one from the Nightingale. But again, it kind of doesn't help with the egg space. So I think even if I don't discard the egg here, I'm going to fill up on eggs by that final turn. So yeah, I do decide to go for it, and then obviously I need to get 3 tucks, so I'll just tuck the 3 birds that I know I'm not going to be playing, and yeah, just kind of at least I can you know, potentially think about it for one more turn, because even if I am going to play this Benelli's Eagle, you know, I am going to have to miss a tuck somewhere. So I can tuck this Grebe now and get the extra rodent, and then maybe miss out 1 tuck by playing the Eagle. Or I can you know, maybe leave the tuck now and take it next turn. Yeah, like I said, it's just really kind of tricky, and it's just thinking and counting and working out what the best way to go is. You know, obviously I don't want to be skipping too many tucks on these powers, because you get a point for the tuck and a point for the egg. So obviously if you miss out on those, that's 2 points you've missed out on. Whereas if I have to miss just a single tuck on the Benelli's Eagle, that's only 1 point. So that kind of obviously comes into your mind as well. But yeah, lots and lots of thinking this turn. And you'll see in the end I do skip that blackbird. So I think that was the right call, except not gone through and kind of worked out every single last point here. But I think here it felt like that was the right thing to do, because I could then play this Eagle on the next turn. I've got 1 rodent and then those 2 cards, and then that empties out the single space I need on the Grackle, and then I have 1 last turn going for cards, getting the tucks and the eggs. And yeah, that's kind of pretty nice end game. I think if I just maybe avoided missing out on the tuck or the egg, you know, I could have maybe squeezed out a couple more points in this game. But you know, I felt pretty good. I think just purely all the tucks I've got, but also some nice birds that I've been able to play late in the game, and also even those bonus cards. You know, these are probably 2 of the weakest bonus cards in the game, Bird Feeder and Backyard Birder, but I'm going to score 10 points combined from the 2 of them, so that felt pretty satisfying. And yeah, I mean, for my opponent, I think they kind of struggled. You know, if they'd got either the Grackle or the Bush Tit instead of me, I think they would have been a lot more competitive. But you know, that's the way it goes sometimes. I think when you've got the Killdeer, you can see all the cards in the world, but if you don't get given those nice engine building grass and birds, then I think you are always going to struggle. So but yeah, I think, you know, for my game I felt pretty happy, considering that at the start I didn't really have a plan, and it was just kind of snow bunting and Nightingale and start digging. But yeah, in the end it was the tucking birds that saved me, because that snow bunting, as strong as it is, if your opponent doesn't do any tucking, you are not going to score any points from it. And yeah, kind of unusual, I think, to see effectively a turn 1 snow bunting not score any tuck cards, but that's the way the game goes sometimes. But yeah, final turn, like I said, pretty straightforward, pretty satisfying to yeah, score those 6 points without even really having to do much. Just pick up the cards and tuck them, get the tuck cards and the eggs. I'm not overfilled on eggs at all. So yeah, all feeling pretty good. And I think the end of round goal as well, just by being able to get down the crossbill, as well as that Benelli's Eagle, really helped me be competitive in that last end of round goal. And yeah, being able to get the tie there, considering how many big point birds my opponent got down, felt good. So yeah, here we go into the final scores. And it's kind of not the typical breakdown of points from a full tuck. I think probably more bird points than you'd usually get, but that's where cards like the Benelli's Eagle come in. Obviously the bonus cards are pretty nice, stayed relatively competitive from the end of round goal. I think I did miss out on one of them. Kept it pretty close on eggs, and then obviously here we go, this is where all the points are going to come from. And there we go, 119 in the end to 96, so yeah, I felt pretty good about that. Again, considering the start with no real plan, and it wasn't supposed to be a wetland engine, but there you go. When you get all those tucking birds, I don't think you have many other choices to go with in the game. So yeah, just take a look at the board one final time. As I said, really pretty nice setup in the wetlands, but I think that Goldcrest really changed the game for me. Being able to pivot to that, and just being able to get all these nice forest birds down, help the bonus cards, help some of the food generation, and also those last two end of rounds. I think being able to get the Vireo and the Nutcracker and the Crossbill, those are what helped me tie those last two end of round goals. And really, you can't underestimate that. You know, there's so many points on the table available in end of round goals. So, but yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that. Certainly, I think that was a very satisfying game to play, and felt very good with the score at the end. So, thank you very much for watching, and do stay tuned for more gameplay videos like this.